The next question we have is, one client noticed your quote, Brian, in CNBC regarding Facebook's metaverse investments and are more akin to drilling for oil wells and things like that. You said that you might come up empty-handed, you might strike it rich. They'd like to know your thoughts on Meta, considering how much cash they've spent on the metaverse and increased competition in their core market, like Be Real, TikTok, conservative alternatives, etc. What are your thoughts on Meta?
Questions about our thoughts on Meta. So Meta is Facebook, and Facebook, as you may or may not know, Facebook owns not just the Facebook social media platform, but they also own Instagram, and they also own WhatsApp, which is the #1 communication app in the world. So they're basically, Facebook has faced a quadruple whammy. The 4 main categories are Apple did some changes to their ad tracking privacy changes. The second is competition from TikTok and all these other businesses are, they're legitimate competition. The third is regulation concerns. And then the fourth is this Metaverse that you may have heard about. So they changed their name to Meta, and they're investing a whole bunch of money into this Metaverse. And the question is, are they flushing money? And all of these things have put a lot of pressure on the stock price. As far as the Apple ad tracking privacy changes, I guess the short thing that I'd mention about that is, while they definitely affected ad relevancy, making the return on investment for advertisers less effective, I guess what I'd say is, tell me what other form of advertising is superior. And just doing scuttlebutt and talking to people that work in the industry, they're like, well, yeah, but it's still, it's far better than, say, radio, newspapers, TV, cable. And so it seems clear to me that the digital space will continue to take share in advertising. And it's true that the privacy changes have made it more difficult, but I think what these changes have done is it's going to make it more likely for those dollars to potentially be spread out more among more competitors. So that leads me to this competition from TikTok and these others, and the pressure that that's bringing on the stock price. So it had been that it was a duopoly. It looked like it'd be between Google and Facebook. But now that there's been these privacy changes, it's looking like it won't be just Google and their family of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, but that they'll probably still be the main staples, but that there's going to be spread out advertising among TikTok and Amazon and Twitter and maybe Snap. I don't know if you guys saw, but yesterday Snap was down. I think it was like 43% on the day when they announced their earnings. So these businesses are a threat, and especially TikTok is a threat. But the first thing I want to mention is just the market's big enough for more than one person. Facebook has tried to answer TikTok by creating a product called Reels, and Reels is so far an inferior product. Google, they own YouTube, and they created YouTube Shorts. They're actually having really great success with YouTube Shorts. And anecdotally, my son Easton told me, he's like, Dad, YouTube Shorts he's like, that's where it's at. I like that way better than TikTok. And I was like, yes, we own Google. But I guess I would say that the market's big enough for many players. And that brings me back to the point Elliott made about eBay. I mean, even though eBay was losing its relevance and Amazon was dominating, it still was able to do quite well. So if we're wrong and these threats are more real than we realize, there's still room for more players. But if you go, Will, do you mind putting up some of those slides that I sent your way? I wanted you guys to see these because I think they'll surprise you. Go to the one just before that. So this is favorite social media platforms, and they asked people between the ages of 16 to 64 to answer what is their favorite social media platform. And what you'll notice, this was just done in January of 2022. What is your favorite social media platform? I was actually shocked to find out WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook were the top 3 answers, each taking about 15% share. Then came WeChat. And then came, actually can't make that out, but then comes TikTok.
I would just point out that Facebook owns all 3 of those top ones.
Yeah, sorry, I should have made that clear. So Facebook owns all top of the three, and boom, that's the answer. That was their favorite social media app. And then go to the next one, Will. So this is your Facebook daily active users. It's a little blurry, but what that shows is daily. If you look on the far right, there are 2 billion daily active users on Facebook. On their last conference call, they said that if you look back, engagement for both Facebook and Instagram, they remain above the levels that they were at pre-pandemic. And that's true both globally and inside the US. And then if you go to the next one, that shows you this is monthly active users. Their reach is 3 billion people. So 3 billion out of 7 billion-ish plus people in the world, 3 billion monthly active users on their platforms. There is no other platforms that have farther reach in the world than Facebook's platforms. Now, of course, you might say, well, what's going to, who's to say that TikTok doesn't just come in and they become the 3 billion user platform? And I'm not saying, it's hard to know how everything will shake out, but it seems to me that a 3 billion network is nothing to bat an eye at, and it's surely going to continue to be monetized. When you look at it, I just think that network effects are much more difficult to disrupt than we tend to recognize. So if you're a celebrity and you have hundreds of millions of followers on Facebook or on Instagram, this creates a virtuous cycle because they're going to want to continue to use these platforms because they have millions of followers on the platform. And because celebrities will continue to make posts there, the followers will continue to go there to look for what they're doing. And then other celebrities and brands, they're going to want to use it too, which means there will be new followers that will want to follow those things. And so it's this virtuous cycle that maintains this active users that allows them to have eyeballs. And then therefore advertisers want to advertise on that precious real estate. And Facebook has that pricing power to say, well, if you want to advertise in this precious real estate, you're going to have to pay. And so, I think it seems to me that their family of 3 billion users has far more reaching and appeal to the general masses than just say TikTok, though I may eat my words on that comment someday. But I think it's hard to not be on Facebook and Instagram. Not only is it a global directory, but there's so many groups, there's so many invitations and things that happen through there. I hear people that say they're frustrated with, social media or with Facebook, for example, or frustrated with censoring or whatever it may be. There's these frustrations, and yet a lot of people sure seem to still use this stuff daily. And so this brings me to the regulation component, which is, there's this bipartisan discussed towards social media, and there may be more regulation coming their way. But what I want to point out is that any form of regulation tends to solidify whoever that incumbent is, in this case, Facebook. And ironically, with Apple, how they've been messing with their iOS changes that make it more difficult to have data. Ironically, that's probably solidified Facebook maintaining their somewhat almost monopolistic position. Because I don't see entrepreneurs out there that genuinely are saying, gosh, I want to build the next Facebook, because they know that what that means is routine lawsuits with investigations from countless governments around the world, and that it's going to be really hard to monetize their platform with such little access to data. And so I think Facebook already has such a leg up and just very difficult to disrupt. So this leads us to the whole metaverse piece. And Elliott, I've spoken for so long. Do you want to take that piece over, or do you want me to keep going?
Go ahead. Bring it home.
Bring it home. Okay. Yeah. So the metaverse, the question is it a cash sinkhole? And, in the next 12 months, they estimate Facebook's going to make $44 billion. They're planning to plow $10 billion into the metaverse, about 20 to 25% of their earning power. So that's no small thing. But the key that I want to point out is that I think it's already discounted in the price. So if you just assume that all that $10 billion they plow into the metaverse, you never see any value out of it forever. And they're going to continue to spend that cash flow in perpetuity for infinity, constantly spending 20 to 25% of their cash flow on the metaverse and getting nothing out of it. Well, the current value, the market cap of Facebook being around 490 billion and 44 billion of cash on the balance sheet. I'm not even giving any value to the cash on the balance sheet. That means that you're paying about 15 times earnings for this business. Now, I will say that I don't think that's how it's going to look. If they are plowing this money into the metaverse and it ends up bleeding and there's nothing to come of it, well, then surely they'll stop spending all that money. It's not going to be like that in perpetuity. And if you add that value back in, it's like you're paying 11 times earnings. Well, to put that in perspective, there's a lot of dominant businesses out there trading for 25 to 30 times earnings. In other words, most things out there are like 2 to 3 times as expensive. So it's already super cheap and discounting and expecting that you're going to get nothing out of the metaverse. I actually kind of share that view that I don't know that it's going to be a great investment. I could be proven wrong. Gartner estimates 25% of us will be using the metaverse 1 hour each day in just by, I think they said by 2024. So that's in 2 years. If that's true, then who knows? Maybe this really is something that pays off. I'm just not convinced personally because, you know, I see just even in my own home how people get motion sickness. You know, 1/3 to 50% people suffer from motion sickness. And if you try to put this headset on and go into some metaverse, I wonder and question if it really will gain that much, if the size will be that large. And if it is that large, do we know that for sure Facebook will be the one that wins? So I don't know. Nobody really knows. But again, it's a free option. If it works out, great, it's extra. If it doesn't, at least you're not paying for that. You're already owning the stock at a price that assumes you're getting no value out of that. So I don't know. Elliott, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say I hope that this kind of explanation of Meta and then our explanation of Amazon really kind of help you see kind of the work we do to try to understand these businesses. But I would kind of zoom back and say, you know, we could be wrong on some of these positions, but the key is the really focusing on that collection of businesses that we own, and that as a group, the real key is, are they, you know, 10 years ago, they were earning far less than they are today. And we believe that in 10 years, they're going to earn far more than they are today. And so that's really the key. And we think that by constructing this portfolio, there are going to be lots and lots of zigs and zags of the market along the way, but that over the long term, you know, even with some mistakes that we'll make, we think that stock prices will eventually follow as a group, and that we'll have, you know, maintained and grown our purchasing power over time.
All the stocks we've mentioned should not be considered a recommendation to buy or sell the stock. Consult your financial advisor for your specific situation. You can also request from YCG a list of all the securities that we've recommended over the last 12 months. Thanks for watching. Check out our other videos and we'll see you next time.